Are you in a position where your dream job isn't going as planned? Are you looking for a backup solution? A change in your career path is now easy with a microdegree. What's that, you ask? Well, with a microdegree, you can upskill yourself while keeping up to date with the relevant and emerging practices. Well, let's have a look, shall we? There is a difference between microdegree and traditional degree. And it's a big one. Traditional degrees, as we all know, take around 3 to 4 years to complete. Traditional degrees give an overview of the course, with not much focus on industrial learning. Living in this fast-paced world, we are required to constantly upgrade ourselves with new skill sets. Not everyone can afford traditional degrees because of their cost. Whereas, microdegrees are the complete opposite. Courses only last a few months, saving you a valuable amount of years. And of course, most importantly, the cost of a microdegree is half of that of a traditional degree. So, how can microdegrees benefit you? The content of a microdegree is compact with bite-sized chunks of information that demonstrate skills, knowledge, and experience in a given subject area or capability. It is also challenging because it gives us insights to real-world experiences. The content is also based on constant feedback from industries, which will instantly prepare you for the workforce. You can secure a job easily in sectors like information technology, design, engineering, and business management. If you fall under one of these categories, why not consider a microdegree? Microdegrees are 4 weeks long and cost much lesser than traditional degrees, while providing almost the same recognition. Visit us at www.itrainasia.com to learn more about microdegrees.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Micro-Credentials Bridging the Digital Talent Gap Forum. I'm more than welcome to invite and announce the participation of Yang Berbahagia Professor Dato Dr. Ansari Ahmed, the founder-president of Asia E University, Yang Berbahagia Dato Eric Koo, Executive Director of iTrain Group, Mr. Ronnie Ambrose Gobele, the Chief Programs Officer of the Human Resource Development Fund, Dr. Sumitra Nair, Vice President of Digital Talent Development, Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, Mr. Anthony Raja Devados, Chairman of PICAM Academy, and Mr. Mano Govindaraju, the Dean of DX School, to moderate today. Now I give the floor to Mano.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mano Govindaraju. I'll be your moderator today. Welcome to the Micro-Credential Bridging the Digital Talent Gap Forum. We're pleased to have a lineup of a distinguished panel, the ones on the stage now, and we'll be sharing their views and thoughts shortly. And I also wanted to firstly congratulate Professor Dr. Ansari and Dr. Eric Koo on the successful launching of the program, AEU Micro Degree Program, powered by iTrain. And I was told this is the first digital micro degree program in Malaysia, and AU and iTrain is committed to produce 1,000 digital specialists by 2022. That's the commitment as well. If you look at the market predictions, according to MDAC, the 540,000 jobs digital jobs are available this year, which is about a 15% growth year on year. And this is coming from tech space such as fintech, creative content, e-commerce, IoT, big data analytics, AI, and robotics. We do have a shortage of digital specialists in Malaysia. I think I can speak on behalf of me being a CIO previously. The biggest concern I had is to get the right skills to employ the right people. You sometimes employ and then retrain them again. That's always been the number one thing. If you look at any survey done across any large corporations, number one thing they will bring up is skill sets and finding the right people to hire as well. So we have, I think, about 14,000 data professionals and about 8,000 cybersecurity professionals. And definitely there's a lot more that we need. And obviously, we are here going to just discuss those things as well as we look at it. For the employment of it, I think maybe Dr. Eric will talk about it a bit more, but he's already looking at how you partners with PCOM and also to work with companies, local and global companies, identifying opportunities, co-creating opportunities for jobs, which I think he spoke a bit about it. And in the terms of there's already an opportunity, an international AI solution provider who was already committed to employ 50 deep learning engineers. So congrats to Dr. Eric and the iTrain team as well for being able to secure that. So with that, I want just to start off with the presentations from, I think you got 5 minutes each roughly for each of the panel to share their views, basically introducing the organizations, talking about the micro-credentials and bridging the digital talent gap. And what do you think about micro-credentials, how it can speed up the talent development and why you think is key to us Malaysians. And the other bigger question people will have is why should employers accept micro credentials as well? So things like that. As we go through the sessions, the forum will probably answer a lot of it, and everybody will share those information as well. So with that, I would like to pass it on to Professor Dr. Ansari.
Thank you very much, Mano. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And a very good afternoon to all. Let me just first introduce myself. I'm Prof. Ansari from the Asia University. We are a university established in 2007 under the Asia Cooperation Dialogue, which is made up of 35 Asian countries. We say Asian countries, but we also have Turkey and Russia within that grouping. We were established in 2008 as an e-university. We are one of the early, players in the e-space in Asia itself. We've been around. We have learning centers in about 20 different countries, and we have been involved in short courses on executive development since the time we were established in 2008. We have a school called School of Professional and Executive Education Development. For short, we call it SPEED. So you see up there in the slide, it's called SPEED. So that's the school. And recently, we spun out the school as a training house as well. So, to give us more flexibility in moving not just in Asia, but moving around the world, because we're getting a lot of people who are interested in our short courses. Some of the colleagues I have here on the panel have worked together with me in way back about 8-9 years ago with short courses kind of thing. We've been running those courses very successfully and having a lot of high throughput those kind of programs. So I'm just going to take my 5 minutes just going through micro-credentials, structure, etc. kind of thing. Slightly different from what was mentioned by by Eric. I'm just going to look at it from a generic point of view where it cuts across all sectors. And we're looking at it from a perspective of what has been approved by the Malaysian Qualification Agency and how we as higher education providers actually go about doing the business of micro-credentialing. So it's to say micro-credential itself is a certification learning of a smaller set of courses. Basically, we are chunking courses into bits and bytes and, and giving that out in much more what they call flexible kind of learning to suit the busy, what they call learner. And also this becomes very, very useful for upskilling and reskilling in particular, because we are in an age where we need to upskill very often. As you know that we are in an age of discovery, there's explosion of knowledge, and the required skills as well goes along with it, and therefore we need to be current. In order for it to be current, we can't go back to the campus, but how can we still upskill ourselves and reskill ourselves? And this is where micro-credentials comes in very well. The idea itself is not new, but the terminology is new itself. And at the moment now, the most advanced country in terms of micro-credentialing is the US. Even Europe is actually not that quite far behind. But Malaysia, as I said earlier, is one of the early, what they call adopters of micro-credentialing. So we are very fortunate to be there. The terminologies I also use for micro-credentialing is nano degrees, micro degrees, you can call it mini degrees, you can call it certificates, you can call it digital badges or whatever kind of thing. But basically, you're talking of what is the credit weightage there. And according to credit weightage, you can call it either nano, micro, mini, or a certificate or whatever kind of thing. Just for the information of all as well, is that the term micro masters itself is what they call trademark in the US. Nano degree itself also trademark in the US. So we have to be very careful when using such kind of terminologies as far as certification is concerned. Now, upskilling and reskilling, as I mentioned just now, the micro-credentialing becomes a very attractive alternative in this what they call times, particularly the new normal times, as opposed to going to universities. And as you know now, with the COVID problem, you can't even enter campuses, because you can see there are no students in the campuses right now. And the students are only allowed to come to campus, I think, next month, where some of them are allowed to come onto the campus. And I think for international mobility, it's again just even worse. They can't just move on cross borders at the moment, kind of thing. So how do we do this journey in terms of what they call micro-credentials? For us at AAU, we take it from a viewpoint of it must be demand-driven and industry-driven. We don't look at from a supply side. We can actually develop things from the supply side too, but we would like to have the majority of our micro-credentials coming from the industry, rather than us coming from our academics giving textbook stuff to them. And we have this what they call kind of framework, and we call it degree by bits and bytes, because we've done it in such a way that if we can structure it, you can actually accumulate your credits or micro-credentials and get a proper degree subsequent to that, either a diploma, what they call a bachelor's or a master's. That's how we structured it, and fulfilling also all the MQA requirements that are there. So it's very much, as you can see, it's very much outcome-based and very much personalized, and that to us is very, very what they call critical. The other important factor is the transparency, because at the end of the day, when you credential the person, other people must accept that credentialing. Otherwise, there's no point of credentialing. So the credentialing itself must have transparency in terms of validating and credentialing it. So very quickly, if I can go through, these are the kind of steps that how we validate and certify the micro-credentials. So there is a definite what they call SOP for it, and things that we need to do in order to have the quality assurance in place to ensure that the validation and certification takes place. I do not have time to go to each every one of those steps, but those steps are there. That's how we do it. Now, once you got your micro-credential, you can do two things. Either you can do a direct credit transfer into an existing what they call course in any university, if they accept it, because MQA has given that guideline. Normally, for credit transfer, you're talking of there must be at least about 70% minimum overlap between what was done in the micro-credential towards what is in the academic structure. So if you have the 70% overlap, then you can do what they call a complete credit transfer. If you don't have the 70% overlap, then you can take the second alternative, which is APALC, which is Accreditation of Prior Experiential Learning, and where we can actually look at what you have done and all the testimonies that you got and develop your e-portfolio, etc. kind of thing. From that, we can actually certify that you have got sufficient body of knowledge, skills, and attitude. It's supposed to be learning outcomes of that particular course and give you the equivalent of the course. That's how we do it. So either you do a complete credit transfer or you come in through APAL. So you got two alternatives. Not that you don't have alternatives, you have two alternatives on how you can do it. So thank you very much. I think I run out of time. So very quick about the micro-credentials itself. Thank you, Manu.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Dato. I'm sorry. I think we'll get questions at the end of the session. We will have Q&A as we speak. Also, there are a lot of questions coming in as well. We will do that at the end of the session. I would like to then next invite Ronnie Ambrose Gobili, Chief Program Officer of HRDF, to share with us his views.
Uh, Thank you, Mr. Mano. And also, I would like to thank AU and iTrain for inviting HRDF today to share with our view on bridging micro-credential in terms of HRDF perspective. Um, the Human Resource Development Fund is actually an agency under the Ministry of Human Resources. So from that perspective, we are actually looking at the national agenda when it comes to upskilling and reskilling. And this is where I think I would like to share with everybody the where we started and where we intend to go from here on, and how micro-credential is actually part of the journey. Just a recap, we started in 1993 by looking at the needs for the industry to train their human capital. We started with the manufacturing industry in 1993, and we evolved throughout the years. And the current focus is, of course, is looking at the building up the national human capital of the nation by having at least 35% skilled workers by the year 2030. And by having that goal in mind, knowing where we started, the question is how to go where we want to go. And there's only two things that we can look at this current moment, which is to have the first one is to have a holistic ecosystem when it comes to upskilling and reskilling. And what we mean by having a holistic approach to upskilling and reskilling, it means that we not only need to look at the needs of upskilling for those who are currently in service, but we also need to look at those who are incoming to the industry. This is what we call the pre-employment group. Those who are going to be in the industry, those who are coming in either from the school platform or from the universities. The second pillars will be on those who are currently in service, those who are currently contributing to the employers in terms of their skills and their abilities, which enables the employers to actually grow and progress in terms of their businesses. The third pillars will be looking at those who are at the golden age or the post-employment, because these are the skill retirees that we are looking at. Yeah, and the skills that they already accumulated for the past how many years being in service are golden resources for the country in order to actually support the growth of the industry as a whole. And last pillar is the creation of the right ecosystem that will enable the industry to actually implement upskilling and reskilling. So these are the holistic overview of learning ecosystem that we need to have in order to be able to create a skilled workforce. Now that is the first thing, which I'm not going to focus too much on this because the discussion will be on micro-credential. And the second things that we need to do is what's next after acquiring the skills or the knowledge that these employees would have. I would like to share here, throughout the 5 years period that HRDF had since 2015 until now, every year, roughly on average, we have been approving more than 900,000 training places. These are the numbers of people that actively going for training to upskill themselves in the industry that currently governed by HRDF. Now, the question is, after acquiring all these certificates, whether certificates of attendance, certificates of accomplishment, what's next progression? So this is the second things that we need to look at in order to acquire the intended of skilled workforce in Malaysia. We need to have the continuity of value in terms of learning. And this is where the micro-credential can come handy. Of course, as an employee who have acquired all the skills throughout learning and development, they have options. Either they can go to universities to have a formal education through certificate, diploma, degrees of masters and PhDs, or they will stop there by just having a general. Looking at our statistics, the first option, which is to acquire official learning by entering universities and so forth, that is not the current favored route for these workers because they are attached to their employment. They are busy working. So what else can be done? So this is where the micro credential will come handy, because after acquiring all the skill, hopefully by having this micro credential platform, they would be able to acquire official recognition from the universities, colleges that currently offering. So I will stop there and I will be addressing more questions after this. Thank you.
Right. Thanks. I think HRDI playing a big role in the funding will definitely be a catalyst on people jumping on and doing micro-credential degrees as well, because I think it's one of the key concerns that normally raised is the funds. Is that being supported, right? So let's move on to the next panel. Mr. Anthony Raja Devadas, who's the chairman of Become Academy, which is very important, I guess. Academy, BCom, digital technology. It's very kind of close. So is MDAC. So over to you.
Thank you, Mano. Prof, thank you, AU, as well as iTrain team for inviting us from an industry perspective. So let me just introduce or reintroduce PCOM. Take a few minutes. We have reinvented ourselves. So I think this is an opportunity for us to share with you about the voice of the tech industry. So my name is Anthony Raja Devadas. I'm the chair for the PCOM side. And I wear another hat as the managing director for Sol Kelly Consulting in the region as well. So PCOM is the tech association in Malaysia, representing 1,000 over employer members who contribute to 80% of the tech business in the industry. Not just in those aspects alone, we are connected regionally via PICTA, Asia Pacific ICT Alliance, together with MDEC, Associo across the region, WITSA worldwide, and WCIT, World Congress of IT. So it's not just Malaysia, the entire platform in Asia Pacific, regionally as well as globally, is brought to you via PCOM as the National Tech Association. These are some of our members, well represented across, and I think Ong was here, our CEO from PCOM, and we talk to each other about how the power of CIOs is becoming influential in today's world. And our moderator today is a CIO as well. So he would understand what we mean by if you have the buying capacity, employing capacity, buying capacity to 10 billion ringgit a year. These are the members we have in the PCOM association. Now, let me just move to the industry. It is probably a 12 months old data, which I wanted to share with you. We are probably about a 300 billion in terms of GDP overall, which contributes to about 20%, 1/5 of the country, divided across 4 areas. You see the volume of business we are transacting now. Without the last 4 months, digital transactions could be probably much, much more higher, given the industry's ecosystem. 4 areas: ICT services, ICT manufacturing, ICT trade, and content and media. Very, very heavily focused on e-commerce, as well as services, as well as manufacturing side. Now, let me also give you a perspective of employability, and I'll connect back to micro-credentialing. I think Mano's looking at me. Where are we? When are we getting to micro-credentialing? I'm going to come to that, but I'm giving you a perspective of what's happening in the industry, right? From an industry perspective, between the 4 areas which the tech industry is contributing, particularly because today is about micro-credentialing in the digital spectrum, we are talking about 1.3 million employee base, which is actually 10% of the working population in Malaysia, which is supported. Now, given the recent impact, let me just move to the impact of industry retrenchments. We're talking about approximately 850,000. Now, that's retrenched workers. What about incoming workers, incoming graduates, which about 150,000? Coupled together, we are talking about 1 million, all racing towards the same jobs. And we have only about 500,000. So how do we catch up? So we need to bridge them with programs that will allow them to upskill and reskill during this time. So employers want legitimate, recognized, applied learning credentials. Now, an example I've highlighted here is about 7 years ago, based on stackability of programs, Northeastern University, US, tied up with IBM and Google to launch digital badging as part of the first micro-credentialing. I think Prof earlier talked about 2006, 2007. We have already started here in Malaysia, probably one of the first in Asia. So let me just share with you what's the comparison, why employers look at certain areas. All right, I'm just going to focus on, for the time, interest of time, micro degree specific skill sets are available. Expertise can be endorsed and validated by peer group. And I think blockchain is also coming in to help validate some of it. And value for employers. What would employers see in an individual who's got a micro degree? The topic of today. So yes, it's growing. So if you see a yes across, it's actually sitting with micro degree. So this is an opportunity today, and with this launch, from an industry perspective, PICOM sees this and welcomes this, and hopefully successfully in terms of the new jobs that is being highlighted as well, that we can meet the demands and fill or create as many jobs as possible. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Anthony. I think we will probably talk more about employability and skills and all that, and the market, the job market as well, as you got holding two hats as well. So we probably have data on what else happening in the market and what's in demand. So we go through that probably later. And next, Dr. Sumita Nair, who's VP of Digital Talent Development, MDEC. Thank you. And thank you for your sharing as well. So,
thank you, Manu. Thank you, iTrain, and congratulations to iTrain and AEU for the partnership that was announced just now, as well as for inviting MDEC to have our say. Let me see if my slides are here. Yeah. So the good thing about coming after PICOM is that PICOM has covered most of the industry statistics, right? So I will not go into that. And I guess I must have had some foresight because I didn't put that in because I kind of knew Anthony would cover that, right? So I'm just going to share with you from an MDEC point of view, especially to if you're students, you may not be aware of who or what MDEC is. We've been around for more than 20 years, and our whole mandate is to drive the digital economy in Malaysia, which means that we want to increase the contribution of digital tech sectors to the economy, sectors that Anthony touched on earlier, yeah, e-commerce and so on and so forth. And so to do that, we address it through these three pillars, and you'll see that, you know, I guess you can say it's in order of importance, right? So while of course digitally powered businesses and investments are critical for the economy, but none of that can happen if we don't have the people, right? So digitally skilled Malaysians is like our #1 priority, and that's really what we're talking about today as well when we speak about micro credentials. And so in MDEC, we've had like this month is like it's a hive of activities happening, addressing all these different groups. So for example, I think 2 weeks ago, we had the SME Digital Summit because, you know, as was discussed earlier with COVID now, digitalization is something which everybody's talking about. It's almost digital by default. And so there is a sense of urgency even with businesses, yeah, to jump on the bandwagon. And of course, as they transform their businesses, their own employees will be thinking about, you know, how do they reinvent themselves to be ready for these new business models, these digital business models. What more, those who are outside the job market but trying to get in. And so in MDEC, we kind of like have a similar approach to what HRDF has, in that we try and address the entire talent life cycle. And we've got various initiatives which we work with various agencies and organizations, starting from the schools. So we've got initiatives around that, to the universities. We work closely with MQA as well, and many other universities. And we also have a big focus on the existing workforce and even the latent, or as Ronnie mentioned, the those who are, you know, seniors, retirees, so on and so forth. Yeah, it could be housewives, women who've left the workforce. So those would be the latent. And so there are programs that have been curated right across this life cycle. And in fact, this whole week, we're having a big focus around the workforce, yeah, through the My Digital Workforce Week. And this is, of course, one of the events that's happening, you know, in support of that that agenda as well. Fresh off the oven, and this is relevant to micro credentials because we just launched this yesterday. It's a digital skills training directory. And basically, it's building on the digital industry skills framework that was jointly developed by PICOM, MDEC, and HRDF late last year, where we have identified what are the skills and competencies that are in demand in the digital tech sectors. And so now with this directory, we've gone one step further. We've actually gone down and identified what training programs meet the requirements of this industry skill framework. And so if you're thinking about, and this is a call to, I guess, all universities, including AEU, if you're looking at what are the other programs that you can go out and create new micro-credentials on, these could be it, because these have been reviewed by industry experts, and they vouch that if you do these programs, they kind of give you a head start or help you to get onto that next level in your career. And we spoke about jobs. So obviously, when you earn your micro credentials, it's all wanting to get ahead in the job, and that's important too. And today we know there are lots of digital jobs out there that are on job markets, but it's everywhere. And so to make it a little bit easier for job seekers as well as hiring employers, we are aggregating all the digital jobs. So if you go to this website, you'll be able to drill down and say, how many software engineers, engineering jobs are in the market? How many animated jobs are in the market? And we hope to add more job platforms as we go. And the idea is just to have an aggregation point, so it makes it easier for people as well as companies to match and find the talent who are looking for digital jobs. This is the week that all of this is happening, and so we would like to invite all of you, those who are in the forum today, both physically as well as online. It's a whole week of webinars, training sessions, many of which are being offered either free or discounted, and there are also 5,000 digital jobs that are on offer. Yeah, so there's a virtual job expo ongoing as well. So with that, thank you very much. And this is certainly a step in the right direction. And again, congratulations to AU and iTrain. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Sumitra. I think the providing a map as well as creating employment through the integration of jobs and all that is fantastic. I think you're putting it all together, and then looking at it from a Malaysian perspective and see where the gaps are and what our training should go for. I think that's pretty much. And thank you for doing it on day 2. I think it was launched yesterday. We are the first one to get to see it today, so a lot more people go in and start looking at it. Thank you very much for that. Next, we have Dr. Eric. Oh, okay. So yeah, sure. We can go to Muhammad Zafir Mustafa, right? Senior Director of Policy Development and Expertise from MQA, Malaysian Qualification Agency. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Foremost, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting MQA. I don't have any PowerPoint, but I hope you can hear my sentence of point. Okay. First of all, I think for MQA, I'm fortunate to be almost the last panel, because I think I just have to add up to the point that have been mentioned earlier by our speakers. First of all, I think I would like to start with today, and I think it's going to be forever, that learning should not be stopped. Learning never stops. Okay, I would like to start with that premise. On the big picture, I think we have 3 options. The normal one is you have a big package of education. Okay, that's normal, that you take the bachelor or whatever. The second will be the conversion. That means you have experience of, working and whatsoever, and then you ask competent authority or body to convert your experience and get credential. And the third option is stack it. That means you learn something on personal basis, and based on that, the intention for in the very beginning is not to get a serious qualification, but in the end you think that it's about time that I get serious on getting qualification, and we call it stack it, the opportunity to get qualification. And I think for the discussion today is about stackability. And for MQA, I think what I can share today is basically the first stackability that we introduce is whenever that we launch the MOOC for credit transfer. And at that time, we don't call it micro-credential, but the features is already micro-credential based because you take a small bite of MOOC and getting credits, and that credit can be getting transfer. And last year, we published micro-credential for credit transfer, of which the first attempt to open up, whereby institution can give credit transfer up to 30%. And the good news is as actually this month, we publish another micro-credentialing guideline, of which micro-credential can be stackable and lead to an award. And we hope that our providers accredited by MQA can unpack their courses and operate in micro-credentialing mode, and later on will lead to an award. I hope I should stop there. If you have any question after this, you can. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much, Engineer Mohammad Zafir. So I think without MQA, a lot of things cannot move to the right direction as well. So it's very key that you're here and supporting us. I think it's fantastic. And also structuring it from unstructured to a structure, giving it a program or plan, which then allows it to go further as well. So which is great. Thank you very much for that. Next, I'd like to call Dr. Eric, Executive Director of iTrain Group, to share his views on the micro-credential and why. I think you probably, yourself and Prof, the key creators of the micro-credential program in here. I guess I'll probably hear more from you on why you started this as well, right?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mano. Actually, I really honor today that we can have these collaborations with AU to launch this micro credential. We call it micro degree. Now we have 4 topics. This morning we actually launched this program, and then I also very honored to have all the panelists here. Technically, they have all their authority and the experts, right, from all the governments and the industries of Malaysia. I think this one is like, it's good to bring all the experts under one roof, right, to actually discuss about the solutions, right, to the most desperate problems, right, that facing by the countries, which is the talent and the digital talent. You see I think just now many have defined the what is the micro credentials. I think this is the things that I found from internet, right? So I just highlight those of the things like improve a skill find in a particular areas, industry area, and then focus upon a specific professional and career discipline, and then computer-based educations, which seek to credentially to a specified skill set. And some people say it's vocationally focused, right? And also it's flexible and it's stackable, which is as some of the panel speakers mentioned. To me, right, so these are the things that come up from our experience, right, for running iTrains Asia for the last 15 years, when we start up with the training provider, and then we transform to be a certification body and a content owner for all these industrial 4.0 relevant courses. And we actually run the courses in the Asia regions to have not only corporate, we have academy institute to work with us for these programs. Now, to us, this is like, as for micro-credential, you need to be transparent. What I mean by transparent, this means like people need to know exactly what you study, what kind of skill set that you acquire throughout the micro-credential, right? So, and these things need to be published. For example, it's like if you have a particular micro-credential on data engineer, so people want to know is like what actually you study. A lot of times it's like we show the title, we show the cert, but people don't know what you study. So what we're doing is like whoever has this micro credential, you can actually log into our website. We actually collaborate with one of the international body whereby it actually called ACRIM, whereby to issue the digital badges. And when you log in to check out these digital badges for individual, you can know exactly what they study. And this whole thing is a blockchain enabled. That means it's like no one can imitate or fake their micro credential. So it's all enabled by blockchain. So this is what we mean by transparent. And number two is shareable. Means is that you can share it to your colleagues, your future employers. So anyone can access to this. Again, it's a blockchain enabled, right? And then you're allowed to share it into the social media that like you gain this credential. I think of like looking for job is two-way because it's like the candidate right want to look for a good job, and then the employer also want to look for the good candidates. If you're able to share this, that means it's like not only you can look for the job can look for you in a way. And of course, stackable. Because I think stackable, I think more we focus on like based on experience is the motivations, right? How do you actually get these things is like rather than you study like 4 years or 3 years of programs, how can you stack it in a way that like a few months you get the micro credential, you can get your dream job, right? Once you get a dream job, your dream salary, and then also you want to move up, you stack it. So because it's like a lot of times it's like you need to wait for 3-4 years, then only you know the outcome of what you study. But now you can actually see the outcome of what you study in just 1 to 2 months time. And then of course traceable, right? As I mentioned, it's like you need to be trace back. Is like what is the authority to give you this micro credential? And now over here we work with AEU, and then we will have the government of Malaysia to govern this as well through MQA. And another one is customizable. When I say customizable, it means it's like I think a lot of panel speaker mentioned about this just now. This is like we need to actually fit into the industry. The program need to be come from the industry, right? So that means it's like we are not like to design something which is like not the industry one. So we will always work with the industry, right? They can came up with any program. We even up to a level which is like customized to a particular company, which is that they want to employ like thousands of employees. So we can do this with a very customizable way. And of course, last but not least, is upgradable, right? So it's upgradable and stackable is be the same. Now, stackable means it's like you can add in more and more skill. Upgradable means it's like now change the industry, especially the ICT industry change very, very fast, right? How do you able to allow upgrade? And like just now when we launch the programs, we will say that like if you take the program from AU Microdegree, you will have a 1 year free upgrade. It's just like you buy a car for the free maintenance within the year. So within the year, it's like any point of time you send back to the factory, which you send back to AU, we will got the free upgrade for you, right? If your speaker skill change too fast, right? So this is what we talk about the characteristic of the micro credential. And then this is just to show you how it looks like. So that's all for me.
Right. Thank you very much, everyone. I think it was good sharing, and everyone knows the contribution that each organization has done, and moving forward, what are we going to do together as well. And I was talking to Dr. Eric earlier as well, and you were saying that it's the first time ever everyone from different agencies and sitting together and looking at it in the same, putting everyone on the same page. Actually, it was fantastic. So I think great things will come out of this session. So we're going to go into a bit of question from the couple. So I want to probably start with my own, I guess. So this is more for Anthony, because we're talking about employment, employability, and all that. So I just went through some data in Australia. Apparently now 95% of the HR managers ask for micro credentials as part of the employment. So you have a degree or whatever, but what else have you done? And that becomes a big piece of discussion as well. So we now talk about stackables, we put in more degrees and all that. A degree alone is not sufficient. How relevant are you to the job scope? So employers are moving away from I hire and I train and a few years later you fit into the role. So now they're trying to say who's the closest fit. So where do you think we are in terms of that level of maturity, and how you think employers can then open up and work towards getting people there as well, right?
Okay, thanks, Manu, for the question. So traditionally, you want, employers want someone who can start today and start running yesterday, and that kind of thing. That urgency is there. That means the readiness to contribute is there. And they do know they have to be practical as well. All right. So if you're talking about TVET education, you're talking about university education, you're talking about micro-credentialing. All these are different mixed bags of expertise coming in together. And employers who are traditionally looking for prerequisites that you must have a degree, only then I start talking to you from another angle. And then you have another set of employers who are saying, I need experience. So you need to mix education and experience now. Now, not only education and experience, you have to now add and make sure you have attitude and the right behavior and the right communication. And then the list goes on, right? This is the practical point of view. So employers want that perfect, I call it the purple squirrel, which you can't get, right? But practically, when you come back to reality, you look at the set of how someone can get through a process. So today, if somebody applies using a resume, it doesn't go directly to a person. It goes to a system via ATS, application tracking system. And the ATS can reject you right away without even you being interviewed. Even if you have a microcredit, a credential program, or you have a degree, you can be just sieved off from the list. So having said that, you need to first of all get through that. Secondly, you have to get through the first round of discussion and then go through all the process. Now, I will probably answer from a technology employer perspective. So what we're looking for is now you have demonstrated experience. Demonstrate your experience through credentials. I call it credentialing process. And you have to go through a test for coding. Let's be practical. You can have all the credentials, but if you don't get through a test in the coding, then you don't get through. Then you get through assessment for cultural fit and so on. Second. And then third, you go on to the job, whatever you like. Now, yesterday, if you have attended the session, there was a question about how much passion does the job seeker have? See, the employer has got a lot of passion because they have to fill the seat. They have to make sure the right people are there and the business must run. But the problem is how much is the employee's interest or job seeker's interest, which is now something which we need to build on as part of the exercise. So that's what we call it as attitude behavior. Now, if you combine these two, then you get lucky. You have the right talent who comes and works and contributes in your company. And then you have to pray that they last for 12 months. Because attrition rate continues to be high in spite of a difficult situation right now. I think unemployment rate is 5.2 right now, approximately. But it was between 3. And I think this is a short-term issue we are facing. That 2% has gone up. But the situation is people who are in demand continue to move. So we look at that all coupled together as attitude. So coming back to an employer perspective, frustration is there that you're not able to hire people on time, hire quality talent. So I guess from an industry perspective, if you put the institution, organization which produces talent, and also certification entities to be able to build more credentialing for the individual, the chances are you're getting more quality talent being built. So we have to infuse quality. And so the chances of them, of course, getting into the next level is higher. Right? And after that, I think rightfully said, we can take them to the handshake level. After that, they have to convince the employer. Once they convince the employer, they can start commence working. All right? And that's one part of the world that's starting. While in the company, you also want to upskill them. So that's why micro-credential works. You have less time, less money, and faster deployment. So I call it fast and furious. You need fast and furious activity to be done, right? So that's also about retaining talent if you want to help upskill them. So these two things, I think, are what we would need most right now that we need to address with the right current challenges from an employer perspective and a job seeker perspective. Hopefully that answers the question. Thank you.
It does. It does. I mean, I'm just looking at it from an employer point of view where the maturity is, looking at micro-credential as a must-have eventually, as what's happening in Australia, for instance, they they want to look at that bit as well. Otherwise, you don't get into the next level. So, which is
For sure, I think the acceptance of um, certifications,
yep,
micro credentialing, or nano
yes,
certifications, all are acceptable now.
okay,
And tech and digital tech industry is seeing it as first. First acceptance level is digital tech industry.
right,
As for the rest, I think we need to make sure, and I think the first question is MQA.
yep,
They will ask. And it's already clear, only then I can take on. But the industry from a digital tech side doesn't wait for that. We look at that credibility behind that. We know that you test the coding skills and then we bring you on board right away. So that's where it is. But with MQA, I think it enhances the process. With the digital badge, it enhances the process. With the university, it enhances the process. All right? Hopefully that helps.
yeah, it does, it does. Okay, thank you very much, Anthony. So I got another one for Prof as well, because I think the COVID situation, pandemic has created sudden changes in the education system as well. So for 20 years or so, we were all struggling to get people online. And after COVID, within 2 weeks to a month, everybody was online. So it kind of, it took catalyst to get that going. But Prof started this with an hybrid model in mind already. It's online and as well as on campus kind of a approach. So he was like a visionary, I suppose, Prof, even before he started. So this just fit in nicely into the COVID situation where I think a lot more courses can be offered as well. So I think kudos to you on that one. Just wanted to understand what made you want to go online when you started off. Of course, you didn't see COVID coming, right? But no.
I'm a good soothsayer if I could see COVID coming. Thank you very much for the question. From a personal perspective, way back when I was what they call University Malaya, the idea of computer science was picking up. So the kind of University Malaya, if you remember, was one of the first in the country to have what they call emails. And I was one. I think I was number 21 or something like having an email. And those days we're using Mosaic. You remember those of us who are old enough use Mosaic. There was no such thing as Google Mail, Hotmail, Yahoo Mail, etc. kind of thing. So I've been an early adopter of technology. I'm a fairly old man actually, early adopter of technology, and technology has always been fascinating, for me. And EdTech was something, an area which I think now they call it EdTech, but those days they used to call it computer technology or computer, what they call computer-based training, computer-based learning, computer-assisted learning, etc. and all that kind of thing. So my thinking then was that, sooner or later, technology is going to impact on education itself. That's why we started this university being very heavily, centric on and depending on technology. But coming back to the COVID and impact on the education sector itself, while the sector was very, what they call, resistant to change, it's as I said, it's more than 1,000-old, what they call, sector, and the classroom has not changed. The classrooms remain fairly the same. But the COVID caused them all to change. And what happened, we saw that, majority of them, or practically all of them, went into what we call remote learning. In other words, they went into what we call synchronous lectures. So they started using Google Classrooms, they started using Microsoft Teams or Zoom or WebEx or whatever kind of thing to get out those lectures. And then they started calling that online learning. But actually that's a fallacy. It's not online learning. That is called remote learning. All right. There's a difference. For those of us who are truists in this space, we don't call it online because online has got a different pedagogy to it. It's got a different mix. I always say the beauty is in the what you call is in the blend, and the magic is in the mix. So you must blend and mix. You're talking of videos, audios, lectures, PowerPoints, text, interactivity, etc. All that goes into the mix, and that makes the what they call the learning much more attractive online. But doing remote learning, synchronous remote learning, is just a lecture, and that's different, right? And you don't get the full complement of what online learning is all about. So unfortunately, the public and many of the students who went into that kind of remote learning had a negative impression of what online learning is all about, and therefore there was a backlash towards online learning. So those of us who are in the space for a long time have to go back and re-educate them, saying that this is not online, this is remote, this is the way you have to do it, the pedagogy. So now we're getting universities talking to us saying that how can we do it properly? because you must have a proper learning management system. You must have all those things that goes together. So it's an ecosystem that you must have, and not just overlay another new technology in there, but use a traditional form of delivery in order to deliver, and therefore that you have this problem of understanding what online learning is. So now that we have gone into this new normal, I think it's inevitable that whether a traditional what you call provider, or whether you're a one of those in the early adopters of what you call online learning, there will be in the future what we call hybrid learning. So there will be some elements in which you are face to face, and some elements that you're doing online. It's the question of how much of that online will be just altruistic online, or how much will be just still the cheap way of doing things, such as just using WebEx or using Google Class because it's free. Use Google Classroom and just get somebody to lecture. Science has shown, research has shown that when you sit down for what they call online lecture, your concentration is only about 5 minutes. After that, you're lost. You can't see the screen for so long. That's why in through online, what they call pedagogy, we have a lot of interactivity that goes along to keep you engaged and motivated and keeping through. So I think we hope that this is something that others also will pick up. And I think we all have to now look into it. And now we're talking of corporate learning as well, because even corporate training has now got to go online, and therefore we hope they too will adopt the right kind of pedagogy training, what they call regimes, which is correct in terms of getting the right ecosystem for the training itself.
Thank you, Prof. There's this one question says HRDF on it, so I got to give it to you. Based on the current market, a lot of people are still not aware of micro credentials. How would HRDF, HR Minister promote on micro credential to create awareness in this area?
The movement of training is inevitable that we have to follow the trend. Gone were the days where the only option for learning is face-to-face classroom. COVID or non-COVID, that is the next progression. So from HRDF perspective, we are looking into the micro-credential platform to enable not only the currently working society to actually acquire the credential that they're supposed to acquire, but also to enable them to actually move forward in the next career progression. In terms of, nonetheless, this is currently at the very infantry stage. We are looking at it. And it's only a matter of time before this thing will be widely accepted. As it is new to HRDF, it is also mainly new to most industries. The reality is, while we have a group of industries that is advanced in terms of their acceptance in micro-credentials, we also have the reality at the other side of the spectrum where there are industries who are kind of lagging in this kind of platform. So the question is, how do we make these two come together and accept this new platform of accrediting the employees? So it's only a matter of time before the widely accepted kind of thing. And as far as HRDF, from HRDF perspective, this will be a continuous education, both to the workers to accept micro-credential as the way forward, as well as the employers to adopt this and to accept those employees who acquires this micro-credential route to be acknowledged as competent and skilled workers. So we are moving toward that direction.
I think the question was more like awareness. What can we do to speed up the process of being accepted by employers and things like that? I think, yeah, we're on the right track. As you said, is that the stage where it's still new for a lot of people. So I guess doing through forums like this, I think we are also educating the public as well at the same time. So which is great. So I have another one for basically, I think talks about what specific micro credentials are needed for reskilling and upskilling in the Malaysian workforce. I don't know whether maybe it's between Dr. Sumitra and I guess it's based on what is in demand now, what sort of micro credentials are required for people to start looking at getting them out of speed.
Does this work? Yes, it does. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. Yeah, as I mentioned, quite a bit of work has been done in the space of trying to identify what are the skills that's needed, at least as far as digital is concerned, because the micro credential that was announced today is for digital tech, right? And so we do know what are the areas that are obviously in demand. And you can find this in literature, both that have been published in Malaysia as well as overseas. Yeah. And this includes things like data is obviously top of mind. Programming is obviously something that is foundational, as what Anthony mentioned, right, for many of the tech roles. But now with COVID, we also find a surge in demand for digital marketeers because, sales, retail is all going online. So digital marketeers is another thing that's in demand, and content developers, because again, lots of content that's going online. And so what we've attempted to do, at least together with HRDF and PCOM last year, is we've worked together to actually identify what are the job descriptions, or rather, what are the jobs in these areas, and then what do they entail? What kind of job descriptions? What kind of competencies and tools that are needed based on what is in demand, what we see in the job market today, and validated that with local industry, right? So that's there. And then, as I mentioned, if you go to the digital skills training directory, you'll actually then start to see who are the training providers, or what are the training programs that are out there that meet the requirements of this framework. So we've started with games, animation, data, and cybersecurity. And the next one will be software development. So, and it will be updated from time to time. The beauty of it is under the Penjana 2020. So now these courses that are on the directory have also been approved by Perkeso for Penjana 2020. So if employers are hiring, people who don't have jobs at the moment and they need to be upskilled or reskilled, given certain amount of skills, and if those skills are in line with what is offered in the directory, they actually can have that funded. Yeah. Many of these training programs are also HRDF approved. So again, if there are employees who are currently working, or even those who are out there who want to be part of Penjana, these programs are approved. So I think that would be a good starting place to get to. Just have a look at the directory and then go from there.
Good, because the directory was yesterday. Was that
Yes,
this
yes,
yesterday?
yes.
So I think it's still new. So I think everyone should just get on it, look at it, and where you are, which was similar as well. So how do you determine what reskilling I need to bridge my digital talent gap? Meaning, do I get coaching or advisory of some sort, saying that I'm here and I want you need to be there. So what do I need to do next? So I think maybe Dr. Eric can, you know, talk about how you get that person across. Yeah.
Thank you, Manu. For your information, is actually this question is actually is submitting online to us. So we actually answer all the questions from the audience. I think during this morning when we launched is like we specifically actually put in our website there is the career support sections. I think this is the things is like many years ago also is like when I was working for a college, right? When we have all the school leaver come to us is like asking is like, is this course right for me, that course right for me, and all these things, right? A lot of times it's like there are, there's a say in Chinese. I'm not sure how to translate it until everyone understands. It's like for men, you very worried to like you go into a wrong career. For women, you very worried to marry a wrong husband, right? So the thing is like when we want to advise this during those days when I was in college, is how to let them see that like the career they pick is right. So that's why it is like we actually have a career support a site that like anyone can actually go and ask. We will allocate the resources to help them to understand their situations. I mean, the future of job and all these things. But nevertheless, the most important is like whether they are suitable for these particular jobs or not. As I mentioned, it's like throughout our micro degree programs, right? One of the first thing for screening process, we have to make sure you are suitable, right? Not only you based on your what call this the prerequisite educations, which is like you have a credit in mathematics, in science, in physics, and all these things. We also need to know that whether you have the interest on this particular program or not, and whether you have the background or the characters which is like these particular jobs. Most of the IT job, to be very honest, there's a kind of boring. That's why all the girls say IT guys are boring in a way, right? But the thing is like it's in nature, right? When you work as a programmer, you actually facing the computer every day. You're not facing human being, right? So when you work as the what I call this deep learning engineers, right? You work as a data analyst, right? Data scientist. Technically, you deal with data, you deal with machines, right? You don't deal with human. So at the end of the day, if your characteristics are not sweet into that kind of environment, we don't want you to actually go through the whole training process. Like this morning also I mentioned is like we also don't want you to waste government money, right? To actually put you into the whole process. At the end of days, it might be on the spot after you work for 1-2 months, you're not interested on this particular program. Or it could be even after 2 years, 3 years down the road, you are not interested in this program. And even worse is like when these people a lot of times, and because I do a lot of when we do a lot of all these certifications programs, awareness talk in all these Asia countries through our partner. So every year, actually, every month also we run this program in the whole Asia. So when we actually have a lot of people come to us, it's like when the age of like 40, 45, they tell me it's like, I think I need to switch career. I'm like, why? Because either this career is not suitable for me, cannot give me enough money, and or there's any other issue. So things like this will happen, right? So that's why I think what we need to do now is like to straightforward to ask this question is like when you want to look for a reskilling program or even like upskilling programs, you need to know first of all is like, of course, other than there's a job available, and the most important thing is like, are you capable to pick up this program? And of course, the most important one, do you like it? And a lot of times people don't know whether they like it or not. That's why we have to go through the psychometrics text. That one can find out your characteristics, whether you are suitable for this particular skill and jobs or not. Thank you.
All right, thanks. I think that's quite clear. Where I want to go. That's another question was asked about funding as well. There was a how can I get funding? I think it's between HRDF and you had a program of funding as well.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to just share a bit on that.
Yes, I think we HRDF, they have a program called Bencana HRDF. I think over there is like we also get our programs to be approved by HRDF for the place and train. So you can actually go to our website and to apply. But of course, it's like we understand it's like they might not have enough because I think the country also have a limited budget, right? There's so many of us that need help. So that's why we work with Maybank, right, to allow these installments. So for the school level, maybe you can work with your parents, right, to have this installment up to 18 months, which is only like 500 ringgit a month, right? To when you actually go through this program, actually you can see that like we even can give you a job which is like a starting pay of 4,000 ringgit. So if you pay 500 ringgit a month before even you finish the installment, technically you can actually cover back your ROI already, right? Because it's like 4,000 a month times 3 is 12,000. It's definitely more than the offer that we give you, right? So and other things is like we are continuous to find more sustainable way to do this. We also start to work with employer, whereby they willingly actually like to allocate some funds, right? Because the employer need to pay for their training, onboarding training anyway, and on the job trainings. Why don't they work with us? As I say, micro credential is one of the beauty of it is the customizable. You can easily customize. So why don't work with us, right? So rather than you spend all this money on this, you work with us. So then we can actually even brand it together, your internship and training run at the same time, right? That means it's like you don't waste anyone time, don't waste employee time, don't waste employee time. So we blend it together. That means that your 6-month internships, your 4-month internship, technically also blended with the training. So we can work with hand in hand with the employer to speed up the whole process. And then the best is like you don't need to pay anything. And on top of that, some company do pay you internships allowance. So you got money to take back, right? So we can't like I always say it's like we can't like everything is like look at the government, right? Actually, Malaysia is quite lucky. Our government do a lot of things. So I work with our partner in other countries like Vietnam, like Thailand, like Myanmar, right, Bhutan, right, Sri Lanka. Not every government they have a fund, right, to do that. So we have to be more creative to get employer involved. And last but not least, we also start to look into crowdfunding. How do we crowdfund your school fee? Right. This is an option now we are exploring with a startup in Singapore, right? To actually allow people to like look into your profile. But if you are underprivileged, they will have people supporting you for your school fee. You don't need to pay back. But you are not in that particular group, they will have an opt for options. It's like people will still crowdfund you, right, for your school fee, but they are you need to actually pay back with certain interest. So that means it's like they will have many funding source that we are working now, and to make this program more sustainable.
Okay, thanks. So in short, if anyone has got funding issues, just reach out to Dr. Eric and he will sort it out for you. We'll get it done for you, okay?
Mr. Manoj, if I may just add a little bit more. Actually, Dr. Eric have covered everything that I wanted to mention. But let me mention that that's from the government funding perspective. From the another perspective, which is the employers who are mostly in Malaysia that contribute to HRDF, let's say they would like to send for workers for training under micro credential or some other arrangement, whether with universities or with training providers. They may claim substantial amount of their training costs from the levy that they paid to the government through HRDF.
That's great. So as you know, HRDF is in support of this. So obviously, you know, it is ways beside Eric funding it. So it also HRDF. Okay, anyway.
Well, if you're good enough, we will definitely fund you because definitely we can earn back ROI.
Okay, thank you very much. We are running out of time, so I just want to give the audience here to ask any questions. If any questions, please do just ask the panel directly. Any questions? You have any questions? Okay, she's going to send it to me. So we do have some questions, but while waiting, anything else that you guys want to share? I mean, what's upcoming with MDAC? I know this week, whole week is a very busy week with a lot of activities happening.
Yes, it is a very busy week, and we have lots of sessions sharing insights on career opportunities. I think, as we've talked about, jobs are top of mind,
Right.
and people are wondering, I mean, of course, we kick off with the session where are the jobs, but we're getting into a bit more detail. So we've been having sessions that talk about career opportunities in the software space, in games, in animation, cybersecurity. We also have lots of jobs in the global business services sector, of course. And so there's, tons of sessions happening there, not just for jobs in the Klang Valley, but also those in the northern and southern region as well. So, if our audience haven't checked it out yet, I would encourage them. There's plenty more that's happening over the next few days. And actually, we have about training partners who are running sessions and sponsoring up to R1 million worth of training. When we did the numbers, we saw that a significant amount of contribution by training providers. So for people who, haven't actually or not sure if they want to commit to like a 2 or 3 month program yet, at least get a sneak preview, attend some of these free sessions, see if you like it. As Data said, maybe you don't like it, maybe you like it. So there are courses on like data visualization and data science, programming, a range of it, digital marketing. So just get a taste of it and see. Because I think, what we spoke about earlier, this continuous upskilling and reskilling, it's not something that we are used to as Malaysians. Because a lot of us think, we've gotten a degree and that's it. It's like lifetime employment. But that's not going to be the way, right? And so I think the sooner we change our mindset and get onto the momentum of learning, the better for all of us.
Don't look towards the retirement period, right? Just get a job and then
Yeah,
go towards.
that's not going to
retirement.
happen anymore, right?
That's not going to happen anymore. Yeah. This is, do you think people aiming to get micro credentials to be individuals looking to upskill themselves? Or do you think it'd be employers pushing employees to be certified on their own time? So I guess this is basically saying, are you doing it yourself or the employer is asking you to do it? I think we can open it up. I mean, maybe you can just give, everyone can give their views as well on where it's coming from mostly. From the education side, obviously, is a push to get people trained, but whether it's coming from the employees, maybe Anthony can add to this.
All right. To add on to what Dr. Sumitra just now said, it's also about the personal learning culture, organizational learning culture, personal learning culture. Because today, with options available out there, you can take on your own self-paced time to upskill yourself. And programs like this are perfectly suited for that. You can take your time on a Saturday, Sunday, come in, take a program, and then, or online, right? Both ways you can do. From an employer side, I think the expectation is, with learning culture being settling in, they have their own academies, learning centers internally. And with the help of funding, through, I shouldn't say funding, I should say contribution from employer side, they should be able to obtain the support to help upskill the talent and reskill the talent. From a perfect example, AEU and iTrain initiative is about making sure that you are able to offer that suitable, timely upskilling program. So if you mix all of this together, I think it's also about making sure that we are able to articulate this, make it aware to all the attendees out there. I'm not sure how many attendees are listening to what we are sharing. This is probably one of the first times I myself am seeing all of the, from an agency perspective, university perspective, industry perspective, all are coming together and sharing this perspective. And this is a very timely week. It's called the My Digital Workforce Week as well, right? So if everyone is able to see it from an employer eyes perspective, job seeker perspective, and for those who are studying as well, student perspective, let's not forget them. They need to be ready because they need to know they're entering into a bigger competition of 1 million people out there looking for jobs when you need to come out. So how you need to equip yourself with the credential program. So that's how I will look at it. But from an organizational perspective, there's something called the learning culture now being embedded inside how they work with upskilling or maybe reskilling as well. Reskilling is about existing skills, right? That we need to move up as well. Thank you.
I think what you said about the mindset as well, right? How do you look at it? Whether you're going after it or you were asked, somebody's asking you to do it. So again, it's a switch, and if you're waiting for someone to do it, I think it's too late. Something going to happen anyway. So I think it's a lot to do with the people out there and what they want to do. Especially now with post-COVID, a lot of them have kind of lost their jobs or looking at what do I do next. My job is still relevant, and the gig economy seems to take some on board, but it's not everything. No, not everyone can go on to
Maybe
it.
I just want to add one thing. With the recent survey which PCOM Punjana HRDF scheme together with HRDF and MDEC, we did a survey. We talked to employers and asked them, could you tell us how many people you will be hiring in the next 12 months? So the statistics came within 30 days, 100 companies, 1,000 jobs. So it's not small. Huh? Talking about 100 companies giving indicator for 1,000 jobs. Of course, there's much more out there. This is just one aspect of it, and all are tech jobs. And like what Dr. Sumitra said, GBS was the first, Global Business Services. Number one on the list, North, Central, and South, all markets. That means we are a global hub, and we are seen as a high demand role. And then came data science, digital marketing, and all of that, cybersecurity, full range of the aspects of it. So which means there is jobs, right? There's opportunity for upskilling. So both are there. But the place and train from Punjana with PCOM right now is a perfect timing because we are talking about placement first, employability. Only then you make sure you upskill them with the right training. So we can match that together. So for those who are interested from an employer perspective, training provider perspective, and employee perspective who want to upskill, this is a great opportunity to approach this platform as well to be able to support your new job creations.
Yeah, that's right. Some jobs are not created yet anyway, so.
I just want to add. So I think when we did that survey, it was 1,000, but this week there are 5,000 jobs, all digital plus GBS. So we've built on that. So there are actually lots of jobs out there, right? The only thing is now it's waiting for the people to apply. So make that move. And if you feel that you don't have the skills, then these are the kinds of programs you should be exploring. Yeah, micro credentials and so on. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. So there's no short of jobs, basically, based on what you're saying. It's all there. But do you have the right micro credentials to support those jobs? And that's another thing as well, right?
Yeah, I just want to add one thing is like, because the question is also asking about like, is a push from the employer or the employee have to go and take the credential or micro credential program. We after 15 years in the industry, we see there's a swift, what I call this, a switch in the industry, especially employer. So in the past, it's like you take as many certifications you want. So I look for certifications. But now it's like most of the big organizations that come to us is like, can you do something on like outcome-based training for us, right? Objective-based trainings, right? So then the answer is actually now we actually seeing like more and more organizations, especially those which employ like thousands of employees, they want to build their own internal academy, right? So we, of course, now when you talk about academy days, it's like those days, the most of big organizations, they have a leadership academy, but now they actually want to build a digital academy. So this is what we are actually getting from the feedback from not only in Malaysia, the other country also looking into that. So that means it's like employer are starting to aware that like they have to do something, because in the past it's like a lot of time employers like they're waiting for the government to do something, the university to do some things, right? But now I think they also want to be involved to do actually help to bridge the that talent gap. So this one I can concur that, because it's like when I involved in the what you call this international United Nations International Labour Organization's reports. They actually try to study is like the movement of ICT's talents in the world, right? The one I specifically study is like contribute is based on this region in Southeast Asia. So we also actually discovered that like most of the employer that we ask for, they are now think that like they should, it's the right time for them to come in to involve, right? To actually kind of like to tell the government, to tell the education industry what exactly they want. If they still don't actually come out to tell exactly what they want, then it will be another 10 years, 20 years, then will be a gap, and the gap become bigger and bigger. So I think to answer that question is like for the one who asking is like, I think both sides also play a role, right? So one is like learning culture, as our panel speakers mentions. The other side is like, I can concur that based on our studies, more employer need to come in and then to play their role.
Let me give a very quick perspective from the university side, just a couple of minutes. I think what we're seeing is the what you call the problem of university output and industry requirement gap. That's what we're seeing. So we find that as time goes on, because for a university to change their program, there's a life cycle. With MQA requirements and everything, it takes you almost about 4 years for you to move from one cycle to another cycle. Of course, it's 4 years, one cycle to another cycle. And we know the environment is changing much faster than that. So if you are going for traditional qualification, you're going to be outdated, or there's going to be a skills gap between what is required by industry when you come out. The moment you come out as a fresh graduate, there's a gap. That's why you need to do on-the-job training, etc., kind of thing, to get them ready. But the stress on the companies now is that, look, at the moment now we're talking pandemic is survival, number one. But if you're talking of even expansion, you're talking of long-term or mid-term as well, etc., kind of thing. They are looking for employees who can start running from day one, right? Can start functioning from day one. So the only way you can do that, if you move away from traditional, huge block of what you call of a bachelor's degree or master's degree into what we call micro credentials. So that allows them to be much more flexible, and they acquiring functional body of knowledge as quickly as they can. having the right body of knowledge, the skills and attitude that goes with the function that is required for them to do. So I think the future of learning itself is very much dependent on the provider being able to be flexible and adjusting themselves to this new norm, as well as to the employee. If you're looking from the employee perspective, you must be employable for a longer period of time. Otherwise, you'll become unemployed because your skill set is already outdated. So in order to remain employable, you got to constantly upskill your skill or reskill your skill, whichever one is required. And the only way you can do that is to go into something like a micro credential, rather than taking one huge block of a master's program that takes 18 months, or want to go to a diploma program that takes 2.5 years, or a bachelor's program that takes you 4 years. It's really too long. And by the time you come out, you also find that what you learn generically doesn't really fit into what's required functionally. That's the problem that we're facing. So to me, I see the future of education, or higher education or post-secondary education kind of thing, is going more and more towards micro-credentialing. I suspect society will accept that. I suspect employers too will be looking at that, because that will be more meaningful for them than having somebody just having a paper qualification or not having the functional, what they call, ability to function on the job.
Okay, thanks, Prof. So I guess I think we are out of time, but I'd like to thank all the panels here for sharing, and I think there are more questions coming up. So I suppose Elizabeth probably push it out to relevant parties to answer them. So I think Prof summarized it quite well at the end. I think micro credential is required for you to be relevant, and also for those who are already in the employment space, you also want to future-proof your employment, because in years to come, you might not be relevant anyway. So one thing to do is to keep up with the technology, especially in the technology space, changes very fast. So micro credentials will help you stay relevant, keep your jobs, or create new jobs for yourselves. So with that, thank you very much, and thank you, Mel.
Thank you, honorable speakers, and Mano for moderating. It was truly an insightful speech and presentation and forum that you all gave. And now AEU and iTrain Asia will be presenting the token of appreciation to the speakers and the moderator. So I would like to invite Yang Berbahagia, Professor Dato Dr. Anzari Ahmed, and Yang Berbahagia, Dato Eric Koo, to present. So first of all, we have a token of appreciation to Ronnie Ambrose Gobile. Next to Mr. Anthony Raja Devados. The Dr. Sumitra Nair. And to Mohammad Zafir Mustafa. And our gratifications go out also to our moderator, Mano Govindaraju. Thank you all for attending. And yeah, and now I invite the speakers and moderator and the VIPs to remain on the stage for a group photo. And I would also like to invite our VIPs, Mr. Ong Kian Yu, CEO of Pick'em, and Mr. Bikesh Lakmichan, the Group CEO of iTrain Group, to join for the group photo as well. Thank you all for coming, and now you're more than welcome to go.
Are you in a position where your dream job isn't going as planned? Are you looking for a backup solution? A change in your career path is now easy with a microdegree. What's that, you ask? Well, with a microdegree, you can upskill yourself while keeping up to date with the relevant and emerging practices. Well, let's have a look, shall we? There is a difference between microdegree and traditional degree. And it's a big one. Traditional degrees, as we all know, take around 3 to 4 years to complete. Traditional degrees give an overview of the course, with not much focus on industrial learning. Living in this fast-paced world, we are required to constantly upgrade ourselves with new skill sets. Not everyone can afford traditional degrees because of their cost. Whereas, microdegrees are the complete opposite. Courses only last a few months, saving you a valuable amount of years. And of course, most importantly, the cost of a microdegree is half of that of a traditional degree. So, how can microdegrees benefit you? The content of a microdegree is compact with bite-sized chunks of information that demonstrate skills, knowledge, and experience in a given subject area or capability. It is also challenging because it gives us insights to real-world experiences. The content is also based on constant feedback from industries, which will instantly prepare you for the workforce. You can secure a job easily in sectors like information technology, design, engineering, and business management. If you fall under one of these categories, why not consider a microdegree? Microdegrees are 4 weeks long and cost much lesser than traditional degrees, while providing almost the same recognition. Visit us at www.itrainasia.com to learn more about microdegrees.